Kia ora whanau. Welcome to episode 12 of the Paul and Henry Show. That's Paul, that's me, and Henry talking about stuff you should know. I've got my old mate Rex here with me. My kuri, he's with me because I'm going to put him down actually because his breath isn't the best. We're still in level 2, which means that Erin can't travel down to be in Wellington with Henry and I, so we're doing this via Teams. So I'm going to start us off with a quick karakia a whakatakati hau ki te uru, whakatakati hau ki te tonga, kia mākine ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E he aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora.
Māori ora.
Welcome, Erin. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Paul. It's my privilege.
We were having a really good chat before we started recording. As always, I'm trying to pick Erin's brains, learn as much as I can about all things Māori, but we were talking about tikanga and protocol, and I sort of said to Erin, what's some advice you would give to frontline people who are out there dealing and engaging with Māori people and Māori communities? And I'll leave it at that and hand over to you, sir.
Thanks, Paul. So it would be my advice that people get some help and get some advice and guidance around what tikanga is and what engagement with Māori communities, successful engagement with Māori communities looks like. And at Waka Kotahi, we've got a real spirit of can do, and we've got lots of great people who have, the best intentions of doing the best we possibly can with our engagement with our Māori communities. It would just be the cherry on the on top of the ice cream if they would go and seek some advice and guidance from, people in Te Mātangi, the Pouarahi, people who are experienced in being able to give you guidance around working with Māori communities. There's a lot at stake. There's often a lot of relationship collateral, as I like to call it, being invested in relationship building and maintenance with Māori communities, and those have often taken lots of hours, lots of dollars, lots of people's time, work time and non-work time to get the relationships humming and get them moving along. And so at the risk of ruining or hurting or damaging those relationships, it'd be good to get people upskilled in what would be necessary to help the relationships being maintained going forward. There'll be some components that will be really, really helpful for people. If you are like Paul and are learning te reo Māori, that's not going to hurt. And if you get alongside of Pouarahi, for instance, to get some guidance about what events may be on the Māori calendar in the communities, so you can maximise your chance of intervening with them or intersecting with them, the Māori communities, that will really help as well. Just to give you the best and maximise the opportunities for working with Māori communities and engaging really well with them. Understand sometimes we are putting out work ahead of our engagement practices, and sometimes we can't really do much about that. But apart from those instances, it would be good to just get the best help we can prior to having the conversation with the Māori communities, so that we can be rest assured that we're going to maximise our time with them. So that would be my advice around that.
Cool, Erin. One of the things I really picked up out of that, I think a theme you're saying is build relationships before you need to start relying on them.
Yeah, do some homework. If people have been given the responsibility and the charge of working with Māori, going forward, what sort of track record do we have personally, and in your teams and in your groups and in your organisations? Can we rock up and to an organisation, a Māori representative group, with our work program and expect to be given an audience with them. It takes time, it takes preparation, putting in hard yards to get to a position where we can confidently go and talk with them, and where we can be confident that they are in a position to hear us and spare some time to have the conversations with us. So we need to do some prepping. We need to be able to understand the lay of the land. I always use this, my own whakatauki. It says we need to be able to know what makes people tick and what ticks people off. Right? So that's given us a view on both sides, what goes into what makes things important for people and what rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah, it's always easy to make that judgment when you didn't do any planning and got it wrong, right? But you want to figure it out beforehand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is that their thing about don't treat people how you like to be treated, treat people how they want to be treated?
Yeah. And, when we go and we talk with people, we've got this idea that, the picture of engagement that I have in my mind, that's going to suit this situation. 9 times out of 10, that's the worst, guidance you could give and have. And sometimes they go really pear-shaped really, really quickly. So just to look for advice, try and get some runs under the board in terms of having experience in working with Māori communities in particular, just to enhance the time you have with them.
Cool, Erin. Solid advice. I raised the issue earlier on in our general chat we were having prior to recording this about tikanga and protocols, and you had some really cool thoughts on those things. Would you mind sharing those, and we can have a chat about them?
Yeah, so my comments were tikanga is applied and applies to people who understand tikanga, and who understand tikanga well, and who are people that apply tikanga all the time. And I wouldn't expect anybody else who don't have an understanding of the correct application of tikanga to apply them in the same way that I would. I understand and I know that knowing things about Te Ao Māori, you can't learn them in 5 minutes, in a day, in a week. It takes years and years and years and years and years to be able to be in a position where you're proficient enough to stand up and to represent an organisation, represent a group, represent a perspective, and to follow tikanga appropriately. And so in the same way, as I've advised before, I would say, seek the advice of experts. Come and talk to people in Te Mātangi. Come and ring up Nicholas, and get some advice from him and the Pouarahi in Te Mātangi about how we go about applying tikanga. What does it involve? What's the correct preparation for these sorts of things? When should I apply it? How should it be applied correctly?
Yeah. Can I ask, Erin, what do we mean by tikanga? And the other term I hear a bit is kawa. So what do we mean by those two terms?
They are very, very similar. These are talking about practices and protocols in a Māori setting, in a Māori environment. Tikanga is the name given to correct and appropriate and right processes and steps that people would normally follow when they are working in Māori environments. Māori environments are based and they operate in accordance to with tikanga. Right? So there's a proper way to behave, there's a proper way to speak, there's a proper way to interact and engage, and it's very important for us to understand what those practices are, what those tikanga are when we go and work with them. You get those wrong, the first time, people will be forgiving of your lack of knowledge. The second time you may get away with it. The third time that people will not be so happy that you hadn't learned from the previous episodes when you got that wrong. So we need to be cognizant of that. And so kawa is a little bit it's kind of the same, but it's a little bit different. And kawa mainly the main example I give is kawa appears when you would go into a region where their speaking protocols, their formal speaking protocols, are based either on a method called paeke, where the entire speaking platform from the marae, from the haukainga, from the tangata whenua side speaks, and then they pass the speaking rights over to the maniwhiri or the visitors, right? So in that instance, that's called paeke, and that's the kawa there. That's how the protocols for speaking happen in that particular part of the region. There's a different type of kawa, which is used in my region, in the Waikato region mainly, and that's called taututu or tuatu mai. And what that is, alternative speaking roles, right? So it's starting off again with the haukainga or the tangata whenua, the people of the land or of the marae. They initiate the conversations, then they pass the speaking rights to the speaker on the visiting side, who then, when he's finished, passes the speaking rights over back to the haukainga. And so you have alternative speaking rights. And then the whole speaking platform is round up at the final speaker for the home side. And that's called tahututu, or alternative speaking rights. Right? So that's the two different kawa I could mention with you here today. Paeke, the entire side, versus tahututu, which is alternative speaking.
Yeah. So based on that excellent explanation, I think I've been hearing people perhaps talk about kawa incorrectly as more of just the informal protocols of a more informal interaction. You know, like I've heard people say, like, what's the kawa for this meeting? Meaning, how are we going to run this meeting? But what I'm sort of hearing from you is that actually maybe don't worry about the words, worry about tikanga and doing your homework and interacting in a way that respects and is in accordance with tikanga.
Yeah, I guess when people talk and mention kawa and they actually meant to mean tikanga, well, that's the prime example of people who maybe need to get some advice from Nicholas and Te Mātangi.
Yeah.
Right? But saying that in a respectful way, because not everybody knows these things, right? So our role in Te Mātangi is to provide support and guidance to people who are just learning in these positions.
Thank you. Nice one. Oh, Paul, we're not even filming the blooper reel yet. You're on mute.
We'll be able to use that in the blooper reel.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just saying, Erin, you made a really good point about learning. Everyone's in a different stage on their learning journey. Some people are right at the very, very beginning. I kind of feel like that's where I am. I've been on this learning journey with you for maybe a year now, and I feel like I'm just starting to understand just how much depth there is and how much I don't know. And it's a lot. So I really value that thing about go and get some advice. But we've got, might have mentioned in our last episode, we've got a new app. I've forgotten the name of it. Sorry, if we can just remind everybody. Download the app. Download Tehiwa, get it on your phone, start taking the time to learn. I've seen one of my senior manager colleagues, Sue Hardiman, make a massive leap in progress just in a few weeks from I think from using Tehiwa, and she might have another app too that Sue's listening to when she goes out for a walk or whatever. So we've got plenty of resources. What else have we got, Erin, that we can use for people to help build their knowledge?
Yeah. There's Pūmanawa Tangata, the HR people that we've got internally, especially Jamie Towler and Claudia Faletolu. And if people are looking to, raise their capability, raise their level of proficiency in Te Reo Māori and learning about Te Ao Māori, I would definitely send a line to those two, because they'll be able to put you in touch with all the instruments that were got at our disposal in Waka Kotahi. And so that would be my chief advice to people who are looking to learn and grow themselves and develop in things Māori. Go and talk to those two in Pūmanawa Tangata, Jamie and Claude.
Awesome. And we'll make sure, please, Jenna, if you can get those emails up and those names up, and the link for Te Hiwi up on the video. And I managed to say all of that without being on mute.
Yeah, it's just that the name is Te Hiwa. Not
Te Hiwa. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll get that right.
As you said, Paul,
Here we
we're
go.
all on different
We're
stages.
all learning
in our
different
learning
stages,
journey.
eh?
And on that point, if I can comment, I'm learning too, right?
Yeah.
I started learning Te Reo Māori in 1992, right? There's stuff that I've learned in the last week I've never heard before.
Wow.
Right? So I'm learning, man.
Can we talk about one word, Erin? Can we talk about one word that I'd like to bring up? Bit of a contentious one. Waka Kotahi.
Yeah.
And I hear that being pronounced in lots of different ways. Do you want to give us the no. Oh, the O's missing, so Waka Kotahi. You've given me some good advice recently on how to get this right. You want to share that?
Yeah, I just want to go back to the point that we're all on a learning journey, right? And there'll be people that are, miles ahead of others. The main thing is that we get on the journey, right? We all learn. Don't sit back and not get on the journey. Right? So get on the journey so that we can all learn together. That's the first point, because this is Waka Kotahi. We're all in the waka together. So that one. So, and the other thing too is people are trying to do their best.
Yep.
And like a baby, like a child, it'll take them a while before they can, after crawling, walk and run and be steady on their feet. It's just the same as people who are learning to speak Te Reo Māori. It'll take us time. And those of us who have been doing it for a little while, our responsibility is to take those people under our wing and nurture them so that they too, in time, become proficient and confident in speaking it. So just coming back to this Waka Kotahi, the pronunciation. So we are experiencing and hearing people pronounce it differently. And if people say, Waka Kotahi, it's just a symbol, it's just a indicator that they are at a different place in their learning journey, right? So they haven't maybe got around to be able to be cognizant that I need to say Waka Kotahi, and that's the correct way of pronouncing it. So we're not going to belittle them, but we encourage them, and then we become the examples ourselves of what proper conduct and what proper behaviour and proper reo should be. Those of us who know about it, we support those ones who are getting there. Not going to hope I don't put the boot into anybody, because we're all trying to learn. So.
I find that's the one that I get tripped up on, and a lot of my colleagues who are, similarly early in their Māori language journey get tripped on is the O or the or, because it's not a mouth shape that we make much in English, and we've spent our whole lives, for those of us who only been speaking English, seeing an O and going and wanting to make that sound in mouth shape. So for me, it was actually going, it's a different mouth shape to go or, Waka Kotahi. And it's just that thing where, but I'll still see new words and I'll say the O as an O, not an or. I think that I noticed that one in particular is quite common.
Riding a bike takes a while to ride it, put the legs on the pedal, hands on the handlebars, push off, and going to graze your knees and damage your knuckles. After a while, you get good at it. No more grazed knees, no more bruised knuckles, and we support those who are still coming after us. Pronouncing letters using phonetics, I think there is some merit in it, but that's just one of the stepping stones we use to get people in the correct pronunciation of Māori words.
Brilliant. There you go.
Thank you.
Waka Kotahi. Thank you, Erin. Thank you very much for that. Henry, have you got any questions or comments you want to pick Erin's brains while we've got him here?
No, I think that's really good. I think the key messages I got from that is that, this is not something you should expect to just learn in a book, like you might go and learn another subject in another area of your development at Waka Kotahi. You could just go and do some reading, have a few chats, and you'd probably have all you needed. This is a journey, very much a journey. But you've got to be on it. There's some really great practical tips there from Erin on where to get support and help and resources, and do the homework, do the planning, and get the help. I'm actually thinking back to your planning episode, Paul. You talked about the importance of planning, and this is particularly in this context, interacting in a way where you're wanting to respect the tikanga. So thanks, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. And we've also got so much resource to support everybody with that, haven't we? We're super lucky to have people like Erin in Waka Kotahi and all of the other learning material that we have available to people. So thank you, Erin.
That's fine. Final comment from me is I think the Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, put it nicely when she said, just be kind.
Let's finish at that. Erin, could I invite you to close us out?
Yep, ka pai. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao. I te kōrero i te wānanga pū a takataka pū a whio. Te marama ahunuku, te marama ahurangi, ka takoto ki te hau o tū. O tū te wini, o tū te wana, o tū whakaputaina ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama, tihe, mauri ora.
Mauri ora. Kia ora whanau. A tēnā wiki.